The Dominion ships came without warning. They descended like shadows blotting out the stars, their black hulls vast and unfeeling, an entire fleet sliding silently into Earth's atmosphere. Their soldiers, tall, insectoid giants clad in living armor, moved with precision that felt almost mechanical. Within hours, humanity's defenses were shattered. The skies over New York burned. Moscow fell into silence. Tokyo drowned in fire. And in the chaos, they gathered slaves. Children were easiest to break, or so the Dominion believed. Small enough to control, impressionable enough to mold, weak enough to never rebel. In cages of steel and plasma, they dragged them away, crying, screaming, reaching for parents who would never come. Among them was a boy named Aaron Vale. He was 10 years old when the Dominion snatched him from the ruins of Chicago. His last memory of Earth was the sight of his mother's hand slipping from his, a wall of Dominion soldiers shoving between them. Then darkness, a cage, and the cold emptiness of space. The alien doctrine. Aaron's captors believed in a philosophy called the doctrine of silence. According to them, humans were not a people but a resource, raw matter for experiments, soldiers for conscription, or tools for labor. The Dominion's empire spanned hundreds of worlds, yet they feared humans more than any species. The solution was simple: take the young, erase their culture, and raise them as Dominion loyalists. Children like Aaron were put through brutal conditioning. Shock collars punished hesitation. Alien glyphs were forced into their minds day after day until they replaced human language. Meals were earned through obedience. Sleep was withheld as discipline. Many children broke. Some forgot their names. Some became empty, hollow shells. But not Aaron. The spark. What the Dominion never understood was that pain didn't always destroy. Sometimes it hardened. Aaron endured their torture, but he remembered everything. His mother's face, his city's burning skyline, the screams of his people. They tried to strip him of his humanity, but every lash only carved the memories deeper. He learned their language, but never stopped whispering English in the dark. He bent under their commands, but inside he swore he would never bow. And then one night, during a failed loyalty test, something changed. The Dominion had a ritual. They pitted enslaved children against each other in the training pits. Fights were to the death, a cruel lesson in obedience. Aaron was thrown into the arena with a girl barely older than him. She was weak, trembling, and couldn't even lift the blade they shoved in her hands. The command came, kill her. The other children watched in silence, fear locking their throats. No one ever disobeyed. But Aaron did. He dropped the blade. And for the first time in Dominion history, a human child looked a slaver in the eye and said, no. The slaver struck him with a shock collar. The pain was excruciating, tearing through every nerve, enough to kill most children outright. But Aaron did not fall. He stood back up, blood pouring from his nose, and repeated the word like a weapon. No. Something broke that night. Not in Aaron, but in the Dominion itself. The enemy they created. The aliens didn't realize it, but their own cruelty had forged a seed of rebellion far deadlier than they imagined. In trying to erase him, they had taught Aaron how to endure pain. In trying to make him a weapon, they had made him unbreakable. The other children saw it too. For the first time, someone had resisted. For the first time, someone had proved the Dominion wasn't all-powerful. And in the silent dark of the cages, whispers began to spread. Whispers of a boy who could not be broken. Whispers of a name the slavers feared. Aaron Vale, the child they enslaved. The child who would grow into their greatest enemy. The Dominion never forgot that night in the training pits. Neither did the children. For the slavers, it was an anomaly, an error to be corrected. For the children, it was revelation. The word no became fire in their throats, a dangerous spark they dared not speak aloud but clung to in silence. Aaron Vale had planted it, even if he didn't yet realize what he'd done. The Dominion, of course, responded with cruelty. They doubled Aaron's punishments. Shock collars, starvation cycles, forced combat. He was thrown into pits with beasts bred for slaughter, made to fight until his body collapsed. They kept waiting for the moment he would surrender, break, beg. But that moment never came. Every lash carved deeper resolve. Every scar became armor. Every attempt to erase his humanity only reminded him of who he was. A mind they couldn't control. The Dominion relied not only on physical torture, but also on neural rewriting. Machines designed to overwrite memories, rewire loyalty, and twist a prisoner's mind into obedience. The youngest subjects were the most susceptible. When they strapped Aaron into the machine, they thought he'd be the easiest to shatter. What they didn't know was that humans were different. Aaron's mind resisted in ways the Dominion scientists couldn't predict. Instead of fracturing, it absorbed. Instead of erasing memories, the machine amplified them. His mother's voice grew louder. His father's stories clearer. The image of Earth's burning skyline sharper. The machine failed. And in its failure, it left something behind. Aaron began to see patterns, the Dominion's language, their signals, the rhythm of their technology. Where others saw meaningless glyphs, he saw structures. He could anticipate commands before they were spoken. He learned how their systems pulsed, how their ships breathed. The Dominion thought they were breaking him. They were actually teaching him how to break them. The first spark of defiance. One cycle, during a forced labor shift, Aaron was placed in the engine hold of a Dominion carrier. The engines throbbed with plasma veins, conduits humming with lethal energy. A single mistake meant death. Children worked silently, terrified of the guards. But Aaron wasn't watching the guards. He was watching the patterns. He noticed how the plasma vents cycled every 12 seconds. He saw how the guards shifted positions in rhythm with the pulses. He traced the hum of the conduits and realized, if a single line was crossed at the right second, the entire chamber would overload. He whispered to the girl beside him, the same one he'd refused to kill months ago. Her name was Lyra. "Count to 12, he told her. She frowned. Why? Because that's when the Dominion bleeds. That day, Aaron caused his first accident. A vent overloaded, killing 2 guards instantly. The Dominion believed it was malfunction, rare error in their flawless engineering. But the children knew. Aaron had struck back. The children of silence. Words spread in the cages. Quietly, carefully. The children began to follow his lead. They sabotaged in small ways, dropping tools at the right time, leaving conduits loose, moving supplies to the wrong sector. Tiny, invisible cuts into the Dominion's flesh. And Aaron became their center. He was no longer just the boy who said no. He was the boy who fought back. The boy who saw what the slavers couldn't. The boy who refused to break. Lyra became his closest ally, sharper and quicker than the others. Together, they began to organize. Not openly, not yet. But in whispers, in stolen glances, in the rhythm of their breaths. The Dominion thought they'd enslaved a group of silent children. In reality, they'd created the first resistance. The slaver's mistake. The more Aaron resisted, the more the Dominion wanted to crush him. The slaver lords debated whether to execute him outright. But one argued against it. "Kill him," said one. "He's a contagion." "No," said another. "He is useful. If he resists pain, then he is strong. Strong enough to serve." That was their mistake. Instead of ending him, they escalated his training. They pushed him into advanced programs, combat against Dominion soldiers, simulations of galactic warfare, strategic planning tests. They believed they were molding a weapon for their empire. But every lesson was stolen knowledge. Every strategy they forced into him became one he'd use against them. Every skill they honed made him sharper, deadlier, hungrier. They didn't realize it, but they weren't creating a slave. They were creating a commander. The vow. One night, after a particularly brutal training cycle, Aaron sat with the other children in the dark of their cages. His body was broken, his skin torn, blood crusted on his face. But his eyes burned like stars. "They think we're nothing," he whispered. "They think they own us, that they erased us, that we're alone." The children leaned in, breathless. "They're wrong. I remember Earth. I remember my mother. I remember freedom. And I swear to you, I will make them remember us. I will make the Dominion fear the day they ever touched a human child." Silence followed. Then Lyra whispered back, "We're with you." And in that silence, something unthinkable happened. A rebellion was born. The Dominion prided itself on control. Every ship, every world, every breath under their empire belonged to them. But deep in the belly of a forgotten carrier, in cages meant for children, control began to slip. Aaron Vale had lit a fire. Now it was spreading. The first flames. It began with tools gone missing. Screws, welding rods, even circuit shards, items so small the guards didn't care. The children hoarded them like treasure, hiding them in cracks and shadows. Then came the whispers. Silent lips moving in rhythm when the guards weren't looking. Messages carried not in words, but in taps, scratches, blinks. A language of rebellion was born beneath the Dominion's noses. And through it all, Aaron stood at the center. He studied everything. Guard rotations, engine cycles, food deliveries, even the timing of punishment drills. Where others saw cruelty, he saw opportunity. Every system breaks, he told the children one night. Even the Dominion. The spark becomes fire. The first true strike came during a plasma vent maintenance cycle. Aaron had counted the pulses, mapped the flows, and timed it perfectly. Now, he whispered. Lyra dropped a shard of metal into the conduit at the precise moment. The vent overloaded, exploding in white fire. 2 guards vaporized instantly. 3 more staggered, blinded. The children didn't freeze this time. They attacked. Chains became weapons. Tools became blades. Even their own bodies became instruments of fury. The Dominion thought them weak, but weakness had been beaten out of them. What remained was rage sharpened into steel. By the time reinforcements arrived, 12 guards were dead, and the children had disappeared into the maze of the carrier. The war in the shadows. The Dominion was furious. They unleashed hounds, drones, hunters bred to sniff out rebellion. But they weren't hunting frightened children anymore. They were hunting wolves. Aaron led them through the guts of the ship, turning every corner into a trap. Air vents were rigged to collapse, crushing pursuers. Conduits were sliced, releasing floods of scalding coolant. Drones were lured into plasma arcs, frying circuits. The children didn't face their enemies head-on. They struck, vanished, and struck again. Guerrilla warfare born in a cage. And every time they won, more children whispered the word Aaron had first spoken in the pits. No, the Dominion's miscalculation. The slaver lords couldn't believe it. To them, children were cattle, disposable and weak. But these weren't just children anymore. They were survivors. They were learning. They were evolving. And worse, they had a leader. The Dominion underestimated humans once before, when they first enslaved Earth. Now, in their arrogance, they had concentrated their most dangerous resource in one place, a cage full of children hardened by pain, unified by loss, and led by a boy who could not be broken. The turning point. Aaron knew they couldn't keep running. Guerrilla strikes weakened the Dominion, but eventually, the slaver lords would tighten their grip. If the rebellion was to survive, it needed a symbol, a victory too big to ignore. He found it in the heart of the ship, the command nexus, a chamber pulsing with Dominion tech, a throne of light where captains issued commands. To the guards, it was impenetrable. To Aaron, it was a map waiting to be rewritten. We take it, he told Lyra. We take their voice, and we make it ours. The plan was insane. Dozens of children against an empire. But none of them hesitated. They'd already been condemned to lives of slavery. Now, they had something more powerful than fear. They had purpose. The siege of the Nexus. The night they struck, the ship trembled. The children stormed the Nexus like shadows made flesh. They came from the vents, the walls, the conduits. Alarms shrieked as guards fell one by one, overwhelmed by speed and fury. Aaron fought like a storm. He wasn't the strongest, but he was relentless, every strike calculated, every move guided by the patterns he'd learned. And at the center of the chaos, Lyra hacked into the Dominion systems. Sparks rained as she rewired controls meant for masters into tools for slaves. When the last guard fell, silence filled the nexus. For the first time, the children stood in the throne of their captors. Aaron stepped forward, blood streaked across his face, eyes blazing. "This ship belongs to us now," he said. And the Dominion's greatest nightmare began. The Dominion called it impossible. The idea that slaves, mere children, could take a ship was laughable. But impossible had already happened. And now, impossible was learning how to fly. The ship of ghosts. The captured carrier should have been useless. Damaged conduits, gutted systems, corrupted AI. But to Aaron and his followers, it was a fortress, a school, and a weapon waiting to awaken. For months, they worked in shadows. They tore down walls, rebuilt systems with scraps, turned prison cells into barracks, and carved insignias into the steel. Jagged stars and broken chains. The Dominion had named it Velcaris Prime. The children renamed it in whispers, the Ghost of Chains. And in that name, a legend began. Training the broken. Aaron knew that fury wasn't enough. Rage made them dangerous. But to stand against the Dominion, they had to become something more. So he trained them. They sparred in the cargo bays, bruised and bloody, until instinct replaced hesitation. They studied stolen manuals, reprogrammed Dominion drones, turned enemy weapons against their makers. Some learned piloting. Others learned engineering. Lyra became their code mistress, bending Dominion firewalls like glass. Every child carried scars, but those scars became armor. "We're not slaves anymore," Aaron told them. "We're soldiers." The first strike. The rebellion's true birth came when Dominion patrols surrounded a refugee transport near the edge of the Caros Belt. The transport was unarmed, filled with starving families dragged from burned colonies. The Dominion expected an easy capture. Instead, the stars lit with defiance. From the asteroid shadows, the Ghost of Chains emerged. Its plasma cannons roared, tearing through the lead cruiser. Fighters swarmed, but Aaron's stolen algorithms predicted their every move. Drones, reprogrammed by Lyra, turned on their masters mid-battle. To the refugees watching from the dark, it was a miracle. Slaves had risen from cages and struck down their masters. The broadcast that shook the galaxy. Aaron stood before the Nexus console, blood-streaked and unyielding, as the crew hacked into Dominion communications. Across colonies, across fleets, across chains and cells where humanity toiled, his face appeared. "I am Aaron Vale," he declared. "They enslaved us. They broke us. They thought we were children forever. But today we are more. Today we fight. And if you hear this, know you are not alone. Rise." The broadcast spread like wildfire. Whispers became chants. Chains became weapons. Across the galaxy, the word rise was scratched into walls, carved into the dirt, whispered between labor lines. The Dominion laughed at first. Then they realized slaves weren't just dreaming of freedom. They were preparing for it. The enemy awakens. The rebellion's victory couldn't stay hidden. The Dominion responded with fury. Entire fleets were dispatched to crush the Ghost. Slave lords offered rewards for Aaron's head. Planets were threatened with annihilation if they harbored rebels. But the Dominion made a mistake. Fear no longer worked. Every world they threatened pushed more survivors into the rebellion's arms. Every whip cracked, every child stolen, every scream in the night added another soldier to Aaron's cause. The Dominion thought it was fighting a boy with a ship, but they were fighting an idea, the forge of war. The Ghost became the heart of a growing fleet. Hijacked transports were converted into gunships. Mining rigs became weapons platforms. Refugees learned to fight. Parents trained beside their children. For the first time in history, slaves were building a navy. The rebellion spread across the stars, carving out safe zones, striking supply lines, leaving Dominion worlds in flames. And everywhere, the symbol of the broken chain burned bright. The Dominion still called them cattle. But the galaxy had a new name, the Children of the Ghost, Aaron's shadow. Yet in the quiet, Aaron felt the weight of what he carried. He was still just a boy. His hands shook at night when no one could see. Every child who fell, every parent who died, pressed on his soul. But when dawn came, when the alarms blared, when the Dominion fleets surged again, Aaron's doubt vanished. Because he remembered the pit, the chains, the day he whispered no, and 100 voices whispered it back. He wasn't fighting for victory. He was fighting because slavery had stolen their future, and he refused to let the Dominion write the ending, the rebellion that roared. The next strike wasn't a raid. It wasn't a skirmish. It was war. The Ghost led a fleet of stolen ships into the heart of Dominion territory. Slave camps burned. Battle cruisers cracked apart under coordinated fire. Entire planets erupted in revolt, their people rising with the cry Aaron had given them. "We are not yours." And as the galaxy trembled, the Dominion slaver lords spoke the words they had sworn never to admit. Humanity has become dangerous again.